Yes.
So why don't we start with your names and how you are related to the Meltzer family?
Okay.
Okay, well, sir.
You want-
I'm Jeff Watt, and I'm the son of my mom, Beverly.
Okay, and I'm Beverly Watt, and I am the daughter of a daughter of a daughter. My mother was Lena Landwillen, and then her mother was the Hattie Meltzer. And Hattie Meltzer was the youngest of the clan, and then my mother was the youngest, and so that's how.
So
We
Hattie
had-
was born on this property in the White House, right back there, and her brother would be Brady's father, and so that would make my grandmother, your mother, Lena, first cousins. And that's the connection to
Yes.
Brady
I'm
Meltzer.
glad you said that because I couldn't.
Well, that's pretty cool. Okay, so did you know Brady? Do you have any memories of him that you'd like to share?
All I remember is how he could collect all these steam engines and these muskets and these antiques and the music boxes. I didn't know him because I was so young personally, but I did share his love of the woods, and I remember there is one story. He even he was such a, way back when it wasn't common, he was such a conservationist. And he would, even if there was a snake on the road, he would take it and put it over because, they do their thing. They add to the environment, yes. And I remember the steam engines, and when we'd have a reunion down here, he would run them all, and they were so loud. And then he would call us to dinner by, with all the
Blowing the whistle.
the whistles on them, yeah. And then I remember the Blue River
Gun club.
a gun club that was off to the north here, and I remember one time, me and my friends, we were going to walk out there just beyond the gun club, and we saw a haystack, and we thought, oh, this would be so much fun to play in. And we walked through all the field and the thistle, and we got there, and it was a manure pile instead of But that's about what I can remember of these reunions and Brady, yeah.
Okay. Did you frequently visit the property?
Back then, just at reunion time, and but now we visit a lot more because of the preserve. We bring people down here, and the tunnel of trees. Yeah, I've been visiting that tunnel of trees. It hasn't changed in 80 years. I remember as a child going through that part. Yeah, and then I do remember more about Philip because I did visit him more, Brady's son, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Philip was the chip off of Brady's.
He really loved the woods. So every time we would come, now I was a little kid when Brady died. I remember him on the wheelchair, family reunions. He'd be on the porch here, in the wheelchair, that sort of thing. Now I say go out in the woods, but it would always be Philip, the one that took us through the woods each year and pointed out each of the trees and which ones had fallen and which one was the oldest and the tallest and all that. So. And Philip also had a love of guns too, so he would always demonstrate shooting a gun and telling you about the history of the, such as a flash in the pan and things like that. And so he was a real gun lover. And then from time to time he would tells stories about when he was an MP in Germany right after World War II, and tell those type of stories.
Yeah. When I brought my grandkids when they were like, oh, I don't know, 5 and 6 years old here, and Philip would just, oh, they were just fascinated with Philip because of he could take that gun apart, show how it was put together, and it was, oh, such a neat time, yeah, with Philip. And he would show us the cemeteries and the woods. That was really precious moments, yes. And
Okay, so you said your family line comes down from Hattie, is that correct?
yeah.
What can you tell me about her?
Well, she was born, as Jeff said, back in this little
White House.
White House, and she married John Langwillen, who had a place right off of
Behind
Road
this farm.
44, and they had moved. Then they moved to Fairland, and it was there that they had a farm and all of that. John Langwillen died young, so Hattie had to take over. There were 8 children, I believe. Yeah, 8 children, and I never knew Hattie myself. She had died before I was born, but they tell tales that she was quite a pioneer woman. Yeah. And I don't know any more about my grandfather, John Langwillen. He had one of the first motor vehicles, and he would park it in the barn, and he wasn't used to all those controls. So he would have the kids open the front door of the barn and the back door of the barn, so
You wouldn't have to put it in reverse.
yeah, you could just drive right in and stop. Well, one day he said, don't open the back doors." He told my mother, "Don't open the back doors. I can stop it. I can manipulate this." So he turns on the car, gets it revved up. He goes in, and he panicked, and he couldn't find the brake, and he went right through the back door of the barn. And my mother said he was sitting there like, with his hands on the steering wheel, and there was boards all around him. And I remember Mom telling stories of that type. Yeah.
Okay, so does your family line, are you still kind of in Fairland, or where have you moved to?
No, my mother then
Was the youngest of 8.
was the youngest, and she, on the Landwillen side of the family, she had relatives up in Indianapolis, and she would go up there, and that's when my father met her at church one day, and they got married. So I grew up in Indianapolis. I think of her line, she was the only one that went to the city. The rest stayed farmers pretty much, yeah. Her brothers, yeah, and sisters, yeah, stayed down here. So we made a lot of trips to her siblings, but not so much to Brady per se, yeah.
Okay.